That's me, 4 years ago. 64 years old, 35 pounds overweight, blood pressure that wouldn't behave, and a bone density report sitting on my kitchen table that said the word osteoporosis in plain black ink. I remember reading that word and thinking, I know what this means. I've known what this means for 30 years. I'm a nurse, was a nurse. 31 years in the ICU at a level 1 trauma center. I held the hands of people whose bodies had given out on them. I watched what happens when you spend a lifetime ignoring the signals your own body sends you. I knew everything about what was happening to me, and I had done nothing to stop it. My name is Susan Miller. I'm 68 years old. I live in Boulder, Colorado with my husband Tom, who has put up with me for 44 years and somehow still seems happy about it. I have 3 grown kids and 4 grandchildren. And I want to tell you something that took me most of my life to understand. Knowing is not the same as doing, not even close. I want to show you something first. That's my garden. Nothing fancy. Raised beds, some tomatoes, a few herbs, the kind of garden that looks a little wild on purpose. I've loved gardening since I was a little girl. It's the one thing that's always been mine. 4 years ago, my granddaughter Emma was 6. She wanted me to teach her how to plant seedlings. We came out here together and I knelt down to show her how to place the roots, and when I went to stand back up, I couldn't. I had to put both hands flat on the ground and push myself up like I was climbing out of a hole. Emma watched me. She didn't say anything for a moment. Then she looked up at me with those completely honest 6-year-old eyes and asked, "Grandma, does it hurt to be old?" I told her I was fine. I walked her inside, got her set up with a snack, went to the bathroom, closed the door, and cried. And then I made myself a promise. I was never going to let a 6-year-old feel sorry for me again. Here's what I need you to understand about the particular kind of exhaustion I was carrying at 64. It wasn't laziness. It wasn't ignorance. Those would have been easier to fix. I was carrying something that I think a lot of women in my generation carry, and almost nobody talks about out loud. I had spent 31 years pouring every single thing I had into other people, and I had convinced myself that was enough. That was my purpose. That was who I was. I was the nurse who skipped lunch because there was always one more patient, who stayed 2 hours past the end of her shift because a family needed someone to explain what the numbers on the monitor meant, who came home at 11 at night, ate whatever was on the counter, and collapsed into bed so she could get up and do it again. I genuinely knew what a sedentary lifestyle does to a body over decades. I had seen it. I had charted it. I had sat with patients and gently explained to them that the choices they'd made for 30 years had brought them here, to this bed, to this diagnosis. And I had made those same choices every single day for 30 years. The osteoporosis diagnosis at 64 wasn't a surprise. It was a bill coming due. And standing in that doctor's office, looking at myself in the mirror on the back of the door, the thought that came to me wasn't, "I'm scared." It was, I spent 31 years helping other people recover. I never once learned how to take care of myself. That's the thing nobody prepares you for. You can spend a lifetime being the person who knows how to help and still not know how to turn that care inward. Now, I want to talk about what I found when I finally decided to do something about it. I did what most women my age do when they get a health diagnosis that scares them. I went looking for information, and I was immediately drowned in it. Programs designed for 25-year-olds with perfect joints and unlimited time. Influencers selling collagen powders and detox teas and resistance band sets and hormone supplements and Pilates subscriptions, and if you're really serious, their 12-week transformation program for 4 easy payments of $67. I spent 31 years in an ICU. I have a fairly high tolerance for complexity, and I want to tell you, this was genuinely overwhelming. Here's what bothered me most, and this is my nurse's brain talking. Almost none of it was designed for a woman of 64 with osteoporosis and high blood pressure and a body that had been sitting at a desk or standing on concrete floors for 3 decades. It was designed for someone who already had a foundation to build on. It assumed a baseline I didn't have, and the volume of it. These channels, some of the most popular health and fitness channels targeted at women, post 3, 4, 5 videos a week about the same topic forever. If the information was complete and simple, you wouldn't need 5 videos a week for years. You'd need maybe a handful. The reason there are thousands of videos is not that the information is complicated. It's that complicated information keeps you watching, keeps you buying, keeps you feeling like you're always one video away from finally being ready to start. Here's what I know from nursing. A patient who's overwhelmed with information does not make better decisions. They freeze. They do nothing. And doing nothing in health always makes things worse. I'm not here to overwhelm you. I'm not selling anything. No program, no supplements, no subscription. I'm going to tell you what I actually did, what worked, what didn't, and why. That's the whole offer. I call my approach the minimum effective dose. Small input, consistent application, real results. Here's the principle, and it's simple. Your body adapts to stress placed upon it. You don't need to destroy yourself in a gym to trigger that adaptation. You need to send the signal. Then you need to rest and let the body respond. For women over 50, and this is especially true with osteoporosis, weight-bearing movement is not optional. It is medicine. Bone density responds to load. Your skeleton literally rebuilds itself in response to the stress you place on it. This is established science. This is not a wellness trend. This is physiology. The problem is that most people think weight-bearing exercise means heavy barbells and intimidating gym equipment. It doesn't. It means using your own body weight consistently with good form. Sitting down and standing up from a chair slowly and with control is a weight-bearing exercise. A wall push-up is a weight-bearing exercise. Walking upstairs deliberately is a weight-bearing exercise. This is where I started, This is what I still do. 10 minutes, 3 times a week. That's the whole program. I do it in my kitchen, in my living room, sometimes in the garden. I don't have a gym membership. I don't want one. I have a sturdy chair, a wall, a staircase, and the floor. That's enough. Now let me give you the numbers because numbers matter. At 64, blood pressure running high enough to be a consistent concern. Osteoporosis confirmed in my spine and left hip. 35 pounds over a healthy weight. Fatigue that sleep didn't fix, and joints that made getting up off the floor a production. At 68, today, blood pressure has been consistently normal for over 2 years. I've lost 28 of those 35 pounds, not by dieting, by moving. My most recent bone density scan shows measurable improvement, not reversal, that takes longer, but genuine improvement in density. My doctor used the phrase remarkable progress at my last appointment, and I've been a nurse long enough to know doctors don't say that casually. And I can kneel down in my garden and stand back up without touching the ground. Emma is 10 now. She helps me plant every spring, and she has never asked me again if it hurts to be old. I need to tell you why this works, because I think women especially need to understand the mechanism, not because it's complicated, but because when you understand why something works, you trust it enough to keep doing it when it's inconvenient. Resistance exercise, again, even body weight resistance, signals your muscles to break down microscopically and then rebuild stronger. It signals your bones to maintain and increase density. It improves insulin sensitivity, which is directly connected to weight management and energy levels. It reduces systolic blood pressure over time. It improves sleep quality. It reduces cortisol, the stress hormone that, in chronically elevated levels, causes weight gain specifically around the midsection, which is exactly what most women in our age group are fighting. All of this from 10 minutes 3 times a week, done consistently. The consistency is the entire secret, not intensity, not duration, consistency. I know what you're thinking because I thought it too. This sounds too simple. If it were this simple, everyone would do it. Everyone would do it if the wellness industry wasn't financially motivated to convince you it isn't this simple. Simple doesn't sell subscriptions. Simple doesn't need 1,000 videos. Simple, consistent, minimum effective effort is genuinely threatening to an industry built on complexity. I spent a career in medicine. I've watched people make their health more complicated than it needed to be, and I've watched the consequences. I am not interested in complicated anymore. Now, I have to be honest with you about something important, because old habits die hard, and the nurse in me won't let me skip this. I am not your doctor. I am not a personal trainer. I am a retired ICU nurse who figured out how to take care of herself 20 years later than she should have, and I'm sharing what worked. Your body is not my body. Your history is not my history. Before you start any new movement program, and especially if you have osteoporosis, heart disease, diabetes, joint replacements, or any other condition that affects how you move, please talk to your doctor first. Tell them what you're planning to do. Let them give you the green light. I know it feels like a formality. It isn't. It's the thing I would have told any patient who sat across from me in that hospital. Start with information. Build on a foundation you've inspected. That's not caution, that's just common sense. Here's what I'm going to do over the next few videos. I'm going to walk you through everything I did. The beginning, which was genuinely humbling. The movements I started with. How I built from almost nothing into something that works. The days I didn't want to do it and what I did instead of quitting. And the specific modifications that matter for women dealing with bone density issues. Because that conversation almost doesn't exist online for women our age, and it should. It'll be 5 or 6 videos, short ones, because I spent 30 years in an environment where information had to be clear and fast, and I have no patience for unnecessary length. I'm not building a media empire here. I'm not going to be posting content about content. I'm going to give you the whole picture and then let you use it. I started this at 64, scared, embarrassed, and honestly a little angry at myself for waiting so long. If I have one thing to say to you before we even get to the first exercise, it's this. It is not too late. That is not a motivational phrase. That is clinical fact. I've seen it in my own body. I've seen it in the research. The human body, even at 65, even at 70, retains the capacity to adapt, to strengthen, to improve. The window is not closed. It is never fully closed. You spent years, maybe decades, taking care of everyone else. Your kids, your parents, your spouse, your patients, your colleagues, your community. You are allowed to take 10 minutes 3 times a week for yourself. Not for vanity, not for a number on a scale. For the ability to get up off the floor. For the energy to be present. For the strength to be there, really there, for the people who need you. I spent 31 years keeping other people alive. At 64, I finally started living. Subscribe if you want the next video. Leave a comment. It means more than you know to hear from someone who's in the same place I was. And I'll see you soon, where we start at the very beginning, with movements so simple you'll wonder if they count. They count. I promise you, they count.